Welcome back to the Altered Life, everyone, and welcome back to the Altered YJ project. As you guys know, if you've been following along with the project, I got this 5.3 LS, and I'm going to be putting it into my 1995 Jeep YJ. If you haven't seen my progress videos on this, head over to our channel and check out some of our past videos of me working on this thing, and you can catch up to how it got to this condition. What I want to focus on in this video is, if you saw my last one, I got the motor mounts tacked up. And I kind of want to get this thing sitting in the frame just so I can start seeing where things are going to fall. I got my new transmission, so I want to hook up my transmission, my transfer case to the motor, and start seeing where things are going to be placed, and also maybe possibly get my body on just so I can see where I'm going to have to start cutting. So my first challenge is to get that in there. In my last video, I showed installing the Novak motor mounts to the frame. So along with those motor mounts is their engine plates. And I just wanted to show real quick what those engine plates look like. All the parts that will come with this part of the Novak kit is your plate, your carriage bolt, your two bushings, your nut, your washer, and then the 4 bolts that bolt it to the block. The bolts that go into the block that they provide are a 15 millimeter. As you guys probably saw in the plates, they have 3 positions per hole, so you can move the engine forward or back. Now, what I'm doing right now, just for mock-up, is I'm putting it in the center hole, and then before we do the final mount and location, I'll adjust as necessary. If I need to come forward away from the firewall, or back away from the radiator. So as a lifting point for the motor, instead of what I did to take this out, had a chain that went into the side of the block and wrapped over into the side of the block, kind of made my own lifting plate. So I took the plate here where the knock sensors go, took this over to a piece of 1/4-inch steel, traced it out, marked all the holes, and made my own plate with a big lifting point there in the center. So now I can bolt this plate into position and pick the motor up from there. That should be good. Now, this will hopefully lift from the center of the motor, be a little bit easier to maneuver. Now, my main issue with the engine stand I have and my engine hoist is they both have a V-style leg. So when you try to bring the hoist over to line up to pick the motor up, it doesn't reach. So I made a chain hoist for my ceiling, so I'm gonna hook the chain hoist up, hoist the motor off into the engine stand, and then bring the engine hoist over and hook it all. It's my life. It's never easy. Anything I do is never easy. struggled a little bit with that, but I overcame. There we go. We have the motor sitting in the frame for the first time, which is pretty awesome. I put my headers on because I was very curious to see how the clearance would be with the Novak engine mounts. And as you can see, I have clearance, which is exciting. These are the OEM truck manifolds, and supposedly they flow really well. So I really wanted to use them, and it looks like I will be able to. It's just maybe gonna have to turn the exhaust away from the frame there, but that's way down the road and I'll deal with it then. So I just have the motor sitting on a jack stand temporarily so I can have it sit level-ish in the frame. But I'm happy with that. So for tonight, I'm going to call it because dinner is ready and I'm very hungry. But tomorrow we'll be back down so we can continue on with the compression test of this motor. I will see you guys tomorrow. And we're back. And it's a beautiful day. It is supposed to be 60-some degrees today, and I will take that for early March. So as I was getting all my supplies ready and getting everything set up to film and make it easy to do this, I decided to do a quick test of the starter that came with the motor. And it worked when it was in the truck, but I just hooked a battery up to it that said it had a full charge, and it didn't spin. It went out, and I don't know. It didn't seem like it was getting enough volts, so I brought over one of my cars and hooked it up to the car while I was running, and it did the same thing. So I'm thinking the starter may be bad, and I don't have time today to go out, get a new starter, especially at this stage, and just deal with that. So for right now, this motor is not getting compression tested, and I wasted a little bit of time just putting it in here by itself, but I got to verify some other things and check some other stuff. But now I'm going to figure out what else to do in this video. There's a lot to do on this Jeep. So let's find something to do. So we're just going to assume that the motor is good to go. I have my new transmission that's rebuilt, good to go. And I have a brand new transfer case that's good to go. So what I need to do is I need to get the motor with the transmission mounted and the transfer case mounted and figure out where I'm going to have to do a cross member as a transmission support. Because what I would like to do with this Jeep is have a complete flat belly and have a dedicated support for the transmission, unlike the factory where it was held up by the belly pan. So I think what we're going to do is pull the motor back out, hook the transmission up to it, get it in there, and then get my transfer case over, hook the transfer case up, and just see where everything lays and go from there. I know there's a lot I still need to do with rear suspension, front stuff, but I think at this stage we can figure out location of transmission, transfer case, and then possibly get the body on and figure out if we're going to have firewall clearance issues or trans tunnel clearance issues. So I think that's a good stage to be at since we can't compression test. It was going to be my next step after the test anyway, so we'll just skip the test, go here, and we're just going to pretend that's good. It ran when I pulled it, I drove it, it's good. Well, I struggled again, but there is the motor and transmission. Now I have a jack stand supporting the transmission right where I'm hoping to have it, because as you can tell, I have nothing sticking below the frame. I mean, other than the oil pan, but on the transmission back, there's nothing under the frame, which will help me get my flat belly that I'm looking for. So hopefully I can mount it like this, but I have a feeling we're going to be cutting a lot out of that. But I'm going to go over, grab my transfer case, and try to get that bolted and clocked up to see how that fits in there. So that's next. Welcome, transfer case. Welcome to the party. So I don't think I've actually said it too much, but the transfer case I'm running is this NP or NV. I think this one might be the NV 241. And this came out of the same 2018 JL Rubicon that my axles did. So with this, I will have a 4-to-1 gear ratio on low, which is going to be awesome. So my adapter for this is already installed in the Turbo 400. So all I need to do is I just got to unbolt this guy and get it bolted on.
2,000 years later.
Nothing ever goes right. Ever. You have this perfect plan and nothing goes right. This transfer case will not work for my setup. Yeah. And it's a little bit later than the last clip. I'm stuck in quarantine now because of this whole virus situation, which I'm okay with. You know, I have a lot of work to do on a Jeep, so having some time off, stuck at home, I can deal with that. But not having a transfer case that I planned like a year ago for this project, not having it work, kind of a setback. Let me show you why it doesn't work. So me thinking that, you know, this is out of a Jeep Rubicon, which is the 241 transfer case. Not thinking in my head like, oh, maybe when the JLs came out, they changed the transfer case because like the bolt pattern and everything from like the 231s, 241s, it's been the same since like the 90s, I think. So, you know, in my head, I'm like, oh yeah, you know, the new 241s will be exactly like the JK 241s. But it's not. This piece that I thought I could just unbolt because I thought maybe it was just an extension off of the actual case itself. I thought it was an extension to do with like the new transmissions in the JLs. I was wrong. This is the actual bearing retainer plate for the transfer case. The JKs are pretty much a flat plate that is right where this surface is. So that's exactly where the input shaft protrudes past. But if you look, the input shaft on this case is recessed way in there versus where the JKs, this is the furthest point from the case. That's not the situation here. And I don't think that this is the same bolt pattern as the JK case. Originally, my thought was like, okay, well, maybe this part is the same 241. Maybe that's all the same, and just this part's different. And I bolt a JK1 onto that and call it a day. Well, it's really hard just to find a JK Rubicon bearing retainer plate, for one. And for two, I'm not sure if it's the same bolt pattern. Looking at pictures and what I can, it looks like it in some areas, but then others it doesn't. So to take the gamble and try to find and buy one to have it not work, it's not worth it. So that is where I'm at with this. Now, it's not just that this won't work. When I planned this whole setup, it was kind of planned around that. So I got the Turbo 400 and I paid for the adapter to go to this. So the adapter and the transmission is to go to a Jeep 241, which a JK 241. Well, that's JL 241. Different. And I got a hold of Novak, and they weren't even tracking the difference between the JK and the JL cases. So they don't have an answer. I called Advanced Adapters. They don't have an answer. Just this is such a new case for doing a swap. So now I have a, almost $600 adapter in my transmission for a 241. That won't work. The adapter converts the Turbo 400 to a 23 spline output with a 400M hardened shaft. So the shaft in that transmission is super strong. It just won't reach that. And the main issue is the faceplate, is the bolt pattern. The bolt pattern won't work with the adapter. So that's the first issue. And the second issue is the output shaft on the transmission isn't long enough to reach this, let alone make good contact. So even if the bolt pattern was the same, this longer snout, it wouldn't allow the splines to line up. So yeah, anybody want to buy a JL 241 transfer case? If you have a JL Sport or Sahara, or even I think the JT, the Gladiator Sport or Overland with an automatic transmission, that should work for you. So if you want to upgrade to a 4-to-1 transfer case, let me know. I have no use for this. It's brand new. It has less than, I don't know, I think it has less than 2,000 miles on it. It's like a brand new transfer case. Ready to go. So hit me up if you're interested. Also, my quarantine beard is starting. I'm okay with it because I have to shave every day for work. So anytime I don't have to shave, I'll let this grow out. But what do we do for this? A couple options. Again, my first option was to pursue seeing if a JK 241 bearing retaining plate would replace this, but changing this JL transfer case, which if it doesn't work then I'm making this not even worth any money because I've altered it. Option number 2, since the transmission already has the adapter in it, find a used JK Rubicon 241 transfer case. That will work. That would fix my whole situation. Just buy a used case like that. Option number 3 is, when I was on the phone with Advanced Adapters, they're like, well, you could always get an Atlas. And I'm like, I want an Atlas. I would love to have an Atlas. The only reason I didn't go an Atlas is because, again, they are stupid expensive. So those are my 3 options. Option 1 is alter that and hope it works, which is, we're not doing that. I'm going to sell that, get my money back. So option 1, not going to happen. Option 2, get a JK Rubicon 241 transfer case, bolt it right up, continue on with the project. Option 3, spend some money, get an Atlas, never have to worry about it again, and get what I've always wanted, and we'll just upgrade here and call it a day. I may have already done one of those options. Obviously not option 1 because that's still sitting right there. So either a 241 from a JK or an Atlas. And I'm staring at which option I went with right now, bolted to the transmission. You would only hype one of those options up versus the other. So I'm pretty sure it's obvious which one I went with. the Atlas. Now, I will say I did not order this through Advanced Adapters. When I was on the phone with them, they did say if I wanted, this was the exact case that he would have recommended I ordered. And he said if I would have ordered it, it would have been starting at $2,700 and it would have taken 7 weeks to build and get to me. What this one is right after I realized that wouldn't work, I started looking online for options. And on Facebook Marketplace, a couple days after I ran into that issue, this popped up on there. It was like a sign. It was meant to be. This was located somewhere in Virginia, like Lancaster, Virginia. This was about a 4.5, 5-hour drive from me. And it is brand new, never used. Had the full shift kit. Everything was still in the package. This was brand new. The gentleman only used this for mock-up, and then his project went a different route, and he was just trying to get some money back out of this. It is a brand new Atlas transfer case, and I got it for $2,000 everything. So I've saved myself probably over $1,000, and I got myself an Atlas. Now, I took a good chunk of my savings for the Jeep away, so I gotta figure out how to recoup that, which I can recoup some of the money by selling that 241, and I got some other stuff, but like I said a little bit ago, I'll never have to worry about a transfer case again. This was my ultimate goal, and I'm here. I just upgraded right off the bat, and I'm super happy with my decision, and I'm just thankful and lucky that I was able to find this for the price I did and the perfect timing, and I jumped on it. So I have an Atlas transfer case. Now, don't mind what's going on there. That is in the next video. I didn't want to show that, but I also had to catch this video up to what all happened. So that is in the next video. Show you guys how we're making that cross member. We're not paying attention to this, but so just a close-up of what's going on here. Here is the Novak adapter, and then this is the Advanced Adapters plate on the Atlas. So the Novak had 3 different clocking positions, and then the Atlas itself has like 7 different clocking positions. So I can move this around a good bit to get it clocked exactly where I need. I have it clocked where I think I want it. It's at the highest location. It clears the bottom of the frame, and it should be good. I'm just going to have to cut my body up to get it all to fit. But we're going to continue that in a future video. But just to show, I just have some studs that I put into the case just to line it up. But then I also found that the Novak Allen heads that they send will bolt into the transfer case. So I will probably go with that route. Well, with that, I'm going to end the video there on a high note, because the whole process of this video, nothing went right. I struggled to get the motor in, and then my starter was bad, and I couldn't compression test it. So then I had to take everything back out so I could fit the transmission. I struggled getting that in. And then once I got all that in, I went to go bolt up the transfer case, and that didn't work. So this was just one of those videos where it all looked like it was going downhill, and then wham! Something to pick me up, and now we're back on track where the project should be, and I'm happy. So we're ending the video on a high note. If you want to see more of what's going on, make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see how I'm building this cross member, stay tuned for the next video as we kind of fabricate this from some spare parts we had laying around. like I said before, I spent a lot of my money on this, so now we have to start getting creative and fabricating some things to help finish this project out. So hopefully I'll learn some things, you guys will learn some things, and we'll have fun and have a running Jeep one day. Hopefully it's a day sooner than later, because I am itching to wheel this thing. Again, thank you for tuning into The Altered Life. We will see you guys next time. It's exciting. It's exciting.